The story of Easter starts with an empty tomb. 3 women who love Jesus go early in the morning to get his body ready for burial. This last tender thing they can do for him. And he isn't there. It isn't made explicit in the author of Mark's gospel, but the early readers and hearers of this story would have understood that the women who came to the tomb that morning were putting themselves in grave danger. Jesus was a political criminal, guilty of insurrection, who had just been convicted and put to death. The Roman authorities were trying to crush the movement Jesus had led because they considered it a threat to their power, and the religious leaders, known as the chief priests, were not arguing because Jesus had made trouble for them too. He challenged their interpretations of religious law, and he called them out as hypocrites. Jesus' followers were considered dangerous insurrectionists. So they were in hiding, no doubt grieving, devastated, completely unmoored at the murder of their leader and beloved friend, but also laying low and trying not to draw attention to themselves just in case any more arrests and crucifixions might be on the way. But despite the danger, the women came, bringing oil and spices for anointing and linen cloth for a shroud. And instead of the body of their beloved teacher, they find that the huge stone blocking the entrance to the tomb has already been rolled away, and a strange messenger is inside, who tells them Jesus isn't here. He has risen. We don't know. We don't know what happened that first Easter morning. The older I get, the less I try to make sense of it. I do believe that those we love who have died are closer to us than we know, and in ways that we cannot understand until we get there. But it is not at all strange to me that those who loved Jesus the most sensed his presence near them. Maybe they did see him. Maybe they heard his familiar voice speaking to them. I have heard so many stories of how people feel their loved ones close by after death, and I have felt that myself too many times to dismiss it. There is mystery there. And even if we don't believe in any kind of afterlife, we know that our beloved dead are not just gone. We carry them with us in 1,000 ways. When we cook their favorite recipes, when we tell their stories, we keep their memories alive. And to me, this is its own kind of resurrection. But the resurrection I want to talk to you about this morning, and the one that I believe we need so desperately at this moment, is not the resurrection that most Christians are celebrating today. The literal bodily rising of Jesus from the dead, that power to defy the universal human reality that we all die. The resurrection, I believe, we need today is the resurrection of all that Jesus preached and taught. Not just with words, but with his life. We need the resurrection of the very things he was put to death for. His radical, inclusive love. His willingness to not just tolerate, but to welcome and touch and heal and have dinner with those of his day who were outcast and marginalized, the tax collectors and the sex workers and the women living outside the protection of marriage. His wild idea that if people just shared what they had, all would have enough. His directive to take care of the poor and the widows and the children, to feed the hungry, to tend to the sick, and to visit the incarcerated. His vision of the beloved community where all people belong to one another and no one is considered outside the circle of worthiness, no matter what those in power declare. His calling out of the truth that both the religious and political leaders of his time were corrupt, self-serving, and bending the law to their own gain, though he knew the risk and the cost of that truth-telling. Jesus was put to death because those who use their power to oppress and control are always afraid. They are afraid of the dissidents and resistors, and especially the ones who are not afraid of them. And Jesus was clearly not afraid. But here's the thing, his death did nothing to silence his message of love, because that message will always rise again. His death did not silence him, because here we are over 2,000 years later, remembering him and telling the story. Here we are, teaching our children about the inherent worth and dignity of all people, and telling them that they need to believe they can change things for the better. Here we are, reminding ourselves that hope is a choice we must make again and again. And here we are insisting that in the end, love will prevail. And if it hasn't, we must not be at the end yet. I believe in resurrection. I believe in resurrection as the power of love. Larsie believes in resurrection too. I believe in resurrection as the power of love to create new hope and new possibility where there was none. Resurrection as the force of love to bring us back from the fear and hatred our country is mired in. Resurrection as the strength of love, which calls us to resist all that dehumanizes and destroys. The resurrection I believe in is right here. It's the part of us that does not give up. It is the amazing, beautiful resilience of ordinary human beings who find it within ourselves to choose life again in all sorts of different ways. We get sober, and we do it over and over, one day at a time. We come through illness and depression, and we heal, even if we cannot be cured. We survive grief, and we are not the same, but we come through with our hearts broken open wider. we lose things and people we deeply love. This year, some of us have lost whatever innocence we may have had left. We fear for our children, our neighbors, our own safety, our country, and still we find the courage to rise. Dr. Kendall Gibbons writes, "Life rises. Not because death isn't real. Crucifixion is not just pretend, but something else is just as real, maybe even more real. Something happens next. Community rises. Outrage rises. Faith rises. Hope rises. Love rises. We rise again and again. And again, we must choose to trust in love and to believe that in the end, love will prevail. This is all faith means. This is all it has ever meant. The UU minister, Robbie Walsh, writes, Easter asks us to have faith that love is the voice under all silences, the hope which has no opposite in fear. From the quiet center of myself, I trust love, but on the noisy surface of my life, I hedge my bets. That's why I need Easter, to be reminded. So inside the egg you received are 2 tiny blessings, 3 words each. One is for you, and one is to give away. So take a moment now to open up your eggs and choose which one is for you and which one is to give. And once you have decided, I invite you to give that second blessing to someone near you. And if you end up with extra blessings this morning, you can always slip one into someone's coat pocket or leave it under a car windshield. The possibilities are endless. But put your own blessing somewhere where you will see it this year. Your car dashboard, your bathroom mirror, say it to yourself. Imagine the voice of someone you love whispering this blessing into your aching, hopeful heart. Love has the final word. Happy Easter.